Today I'm joined by Jack Dann, Technical Director at Fermi Exploration. Jack, great to have you on. How are you doing?
Really good, thank you. Delighted to be here, Dan.
Great. So a busy week for Fermi with the company reporting assay results from two of the properties it's exploring as part of its JV with Power Metal. Let's start with Drake Lake Silas, where you tested two key targets. Can you tell us about what you found?
Yeah, certainly. So this summer we completed a drill program across in Labrador on our Drake Lake property. That's a property where we're looking for IOCG style mineralization, which is mineralization that's hosted within hematic breccias. And they're a critical source of the world's copper, iron, and ultimately uranium.
Yeah.
We were interested in targeting specific features in the center of the property. And one of those features we drilled, recovering around 0.3% uranium across a 2-meter intersect. It doesn't sound very much, but ultimately it's a critical component to our understanding of that property, as that gives us confidence that there is uranium, as we call it, in the system. We know there's uranium there, and we can ultimately use that information and learn from it, and then target other areas of the property to discover more. Additionally, up in the northeast of the property, we were drilling around 1 kilometre away from a known resource. And I wanted to see if there was any extension to that. From a geophysical point of view, it looked like there may be. And I'm delighted that, we managed to strike a little bit of uranium there, which seems to be similar to the mineralization further to the northeast in this known deposit. So it was a really, really positive outcome. And I'm looking forward to discussing more when we get the rest of the assays through.
Yeah, so the results from the ground sort of fit with what you were hoping and maybe expecting from the desktop research you've done.
Yeah, within reason. It's exploration. You never really really know what you're going to be finding ultimately, but it was a positive outcome for the exploration there this summer.
Great. So you're now planning full geochemical and mineralogical analysis, which will guide future exploration. What are you looking for with this new round of work?
So it's just a continuation. When we get these samples, we want to understand as much as we can from them. So the results that we reported at the beginning of the week were rush samples completed so that we could get some news and we could understand the geology initially. This is a full analysis, so we're going to be looking at every single element that is relevant to the exploration in this area across all the samples. Additionally, we're going to be looking at using shortwave infrared, which is a really powerful technique that enables us to understand the alteration mineralogy, which is a key thing to understand for IOCG style deposits and some of the mineralization in the northeast of the property. And then we're going to be looking at the actual minerals themselves through what we call petrographic analysis. And that will enable us to understand if what we found is similar to other deposits elsewhere, and help us build a model to understand the other data sets that we have, and ultimately decide if we want to continue exploration or drill other wells from the property. It's learning. We've only sunk 7 holes into that area, and exploration is a challenging game. So it's key that we understand as much as we can before we commit more funds and ultimately drill some more on that property.
Great. So moving on, you also revealed assay results from the Perch River property. So this didn't return the uranium grades you were looking for this time, but it did return highly anomalous lead isotopes. So can you tell us why this is significant?
Yeah, certainly. So, over the summer we drilled 6 holes into Perch River. So there we were testing a feature called, I've termed the rapid fault structure. It's this long linear fault structure around 10 kilometers long. And over that, in 2024, we collected some radon and some soil samples. They indicated that there was quite anomalous radon directly over the fault structure. And alongside that, there was anomalous lead isotope values and uranium and other elements that are really critical for determining where an unconformity-related deposit may be. We then drilled this summer, and the results, they weren't that great to come out the ground. It was a fairly disappointing time being in the core shack then. But as with all of these things, we've spent that money drilling them. We want to understand as much as we can. So these samples were sent off for a full assay, which included lead isotopes. Now, lead isotopes are really critical for uranium exploration. As you know, uranium is radioactive, and as that decays, as it breaks down to other elements, where the element that has the isotope that has its longest half-life is lead. So uranium-235 will decay eventually down to lead-206. If we compare the value of lead-206 to another lead isotope, 204, which is derived from supernovas and doesn't decay, or doesn't derive from uranium, we can get an idea of how much lead in a single sample came from uranium.
Right.
If we divide 206 by 204, we get a ratio. And generally, our background ratios, if you pick a bit of soil from your garden or a lead off your roof or whatever, it'll have a value of around 20 or under. Anything that's anomalous is a value over 40. And we're sitting here with values of 240.
Right.
So we are way, way beyond what we should be. And other studies and various other people have looked at other deposits in the area, and they found that anything over 100 is basically what you're finding next to an ore body. Now, we haven't found an ore body, obviously, otherwise it's probably a very different conversation.
Yeah.
But we have found a really critical sign that there may be uranium in this system, and we just haven't found it yet. So we need to go back. We need to collect some more samples, or rather I need to go back and collect some more samples, and identify if there is scope in this area for a uranium deposit to be formed. And we're going to be looking at the alteration mineralogy. We're going to be, again, taking these thin sections, petrographic samples to really delve in deep to the mineralogy. And additionally, I want to have more dense sampling. So when we take these samples, they're just small bits of rock. We now want to analyze individual meters so we can really build up a picture and understand that before we take further steps to work in that area.
Brilliant. So will that work be taking place next year then?
Well, the sampling I'm going to complete next week. I'm in Saskatchewan anyway, and then that analysis will probably end up finishing just after Christmas, or maybe a little bit later, depending on how the lab's capacity is. And then we'll be discussing internally and deciding what we do next.
Okay, great. So, speaking of 2026, can you tell us about your plans for the other assets in the Athabasca Basin portfolio?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, we were hoping to drill Badger Lake this September. We had some permitting delays, and I'm glad to report that we have received that permit now, and we're looking forward to drilling that in 2026, probably February, March time. That's where we'll be targeting what's called the S zone. It's this conductive body just above the unconformity, and then above that we've got uranium, copper, and nickel anomalies in soil. It's a bit of a weird one. It's not similar to a lot of these other unconformity-related deposits we see in Saskatchewan, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what we get there. And then as well, up around 40 kilometres south of Perch River is our East Hawkrock property. And I'm just working with our geophysical contractors and consultants now to deliver an idea of what we've got going on there. So the geology is fairly complicated, and we want to ensure that when we do drill this property, we place these holes into exactly where will get us the best chance of finding a discovery. So we're just finalising that results there, and I look forward to discussing that as well.
Yeah, lots to be getting on with then. So finally, I also wanted to ask you about the exploration agreement you've signed with YNLR since you last came on StockBox. This sounds like it'll really help on the permitting side of your activities and just generally with moving forward in the Athabasca Basin. Can you just tell us a bit more about the agreement?
Yeah, Yanafe Land and Resources Offices is the group that represents 7 communities in the northeast of Athabasca, mainly Dene communities, which is the one of the Indigenous groups in that area. And they exist to ensure that the local communities in the area firstly have a say in the exploration. We are operating in an environment where these communities have lived for thousands of years. Yeah. And we could cause severe damage if we didn't firstly acknowledge their ethical and their cultural significance of these areas, but also the environmental aspect. So we need to ensure that when we are planning exploration and when we are permitting exploration, we are working within areas that we're not going to damage their communities or cause cultural harm and everything else like that. Additionally, we are bringing fairly large amounts of money to an area where there isn't really that much economic opportunities. So these agreements ensure that we will, or part of them is to use local contractors. So this summer we use a company called Team Drilling. They're part Indigenous owned. We have a couple of Indigenous guys working on the property from local communities. So we're able to deliver funding and jobs and security to these areas, which are quite far away from sort of mainstream civilization. And then on the other side, the permitting. It is as part of our duty to consult, which is where we discuss with local communities. We need to have a good relationship with these other groups. And it ensures that when we do submit a permit for drilling, it can be the government are aware that we have a relationship already. Yeah. I've actually just emailed one of the guys at YNLR yesterday just to discuss some bits and pieces. And it means that we're in a friendly position to get our permitting accelerated. It's just modern. It's just being decent modern explorationists and ensuring that the days of rocking up there and drilling some holes and hoping for the best and ignoring local communities are gone. Yeah. So we have to be respectful, and that's why I was delighted to sign it over the summer.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for coming on, Jack, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.